robbery charges that could send at least one of them away if convicted.
They had 3 months to get this stuff. They had 3 months to get warrants. They didn't get warrants that night. They didn't get warrants the next night. They didn't get warrants the next month. They didn't get warrants the month after. They waited 3 months to get warrants on whether or not there's guns, whether or not there's jewelry. How about their cell phones? How about the computers?
Memphis is unique. They have the Memphis Safe Task Force there currently, which was kind of a help in a lot of this. So it's really just coordination and pre-planning.
Pooh Shiesty saw his whole world collapse. And listen to this. It all went down in a courtroom just a few months back. He was everywhere, one of the hottest names in rap, stamped by Gucci Mane, running up streams, and looking like he had a serious long-term grip on the game. But hold up. Now he's locked in a federal detention center, bond denied, facing charges so heavy they could bury him behind bars for life. And you won't believe this. The reason? Prosecutors aren't calling this a simple downfall. They're saying he crossed a line that left even the industry stunned, allegedly setting up and robbing his own label boss, Gucci Mane, during what was supposed to be just another normal studio session.
9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas. Lontrell Williams Jr., also known as Pooh Shiesty, 3 music industry professionals traveled to Dallas for a scheduled business meeting. Lontrell Williams Jr. arranged this meeting purportedly to discuss the terms of his recording contract with one of the victims.
But hold up. This is where things start getting real messy. While Pooh Shiesty is still sitting behind bars with no bond in sight, others tied to the exact same case, including his own father, managed to secure bond or even house arrest. That kind of gap had people side-eyeing the whole situation, asking one big question. What did the court see in him that they didn't see in everybody else? And listen to this, because beneath the surface, there's a whole deeper layer. Contract drama, rising tension inside a major label, and prosecutors painting this as something planned, not some random situation that got out of hand. Because what really went down inside that Dallas studio, it might not be what fans were originally led to believe. Now here's where it gets even wilder. Reports, including alleged footage, suggest either Pooh Shiesty or Big 30 had a weapon or made threats toward Gucci Mane during what's being called a Dallas kidnapping and robbery setup. And let's be real, Pooh Shiesty didn't creep into the game, he exploded onto the scene. Once he linked up with Gucci Mane's 1017 label, he instantly stood out as one of the loudest voices in the new rap wave. His sound had that raw, unfiltered energy fans eat up, and with major cosigns behind him, it felt like he was set for a long run at the top. Everything about his momentum was going up, no question. Streams were climbing, his name was buzzing everywhere, and he was building something that looked way bigger than just music. Then out of nowhere, boom, everything flipped overnight. In April 2026, Pooh Shiesty, whose real name is Lontrell Williams Jr., got arrested along with several others and hit with heavy federal charges like kidnapping, armed robbery, and conspiracy. The news spread fast, and the reaction? Instant shock. Fans who were just celebrating his rise suddenly found themselves trying to figure out how things spiraled this far out of control.
That update is even worse than I thought. First off, Pooh Shiesty is the dumbest human being on earth. You don't get much stupider than Pooh Shiesty. So they brought the contract to the studio. Pooh Shiesty told Gucci Mane, hey, can I holler at you in the private room? Gucci said, yeah, they go to the private room. Pooh Shiesty said, hey, listen, could you sign me out of this deal? Sign this contract and release me, please.
What made this hit even harder, listen to this, was the timing. This wasn't some old situation coming back to haunt him years later. This was fresh, active, and playing out in real time. One minute, Pooh Shiesty was stacking momentum. The next, he was in federal court fighting for his freedom. And hold up, the charges alone were already enough to shake everything, but the details behind them, that's what really made people pay attention. Because the real story didn't begin with the arrest. It started months earlier during a studio session that was supposed to be strictly business, but quickly turned into something way more serious. According to federal prosecutors, everything goes back to January 10th, 2026, inside a Dallas recording studio. What was meant to be a simple meeting between Pooh Shiesty, Gucci Mane, and their teams suddenly took a turn nobody saw coming. Investigators are saying that meeting wasn't as normal as it seemed on the surface. Instead, listen carefully, they claim it was set up in advance, part of something bigger, not just a random moment that got out of hand. The accusations? They're heavy. Prosecutors allege Pooh Shiesty walked into that studio carrying an AK-style weapon, instantly changing the entire energy of what should have been a business conversation. From that point on, things reportedly escalated fast. He's now accused of pressuring for a release from his contract with Gucci Mane's 1017 label, turning what should have been a negotiation into a tense, high-stakes situation.
Alleges that on January 10th of this year, 3 music industry professionals traveled to Dallas for a scheduled business meeting. Lontrell Williams Jr. arranged this meeting purportedly to discuss the terms of his recording contract with one of the victims. As alleged, Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol and forced one of the victims to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint.
And you won't believe this. According to the complaint, it didn't even end there. Authorities say Gucci Mane and others in the room were stripped of valuables, watches, jewelry, and straight cash right in the middle of that encounter. What really makes this situation hit different isn't just the robbery claims, it's how prosecutors are breaking it down. They're not calling this random, they're calling it planned and coordinated. And listen to this. Reports say the victims were also robbed of Rolex watches, jewelry, and cash.
Other victims of Rolex watches, jewelry, cash, and other high-value items. One of the victims was actually choked by one of the defendants to the point of near unconsciousness.
In fact, hold up. The whole situation is being described as a planned kidnapping setup with multiple individuals involved, each one allegedly playing a specific role. That kind of structure, if it actually holds up, pushes this case into a completely different league. And just when it felt like things couldn't get any more serious, investigators drop something that changes the entire angle. Because listen to this, what the feds already had on him might be the key detail that flips everything. What makes this even heavier isn't just what prosecutors are accusing, it's what they're saying they can actually prove. At the time all this went down, Pooh Shiesty wasn't moving freely at all. He was already under court supervision from a prior case, on home confinement, and required to wear an ankle monitor. And that right there changes the whole game, because it means federal authorities weren't starting from zero. They already had a built-in way to track his movements. According to investigators, that monitor created a digital trail, placing him exactly where they say he was during key moments tied to the incident. Instead of relying only on statements, prosecutors are leaning heavily on location data they believe connects him straight to the scene. And listen, there's more. Authorities also highlighted social media activity that raised even more questions. Posts allegedly showing stacks of cash, jewelry, and luxury items started circulating shortly after everything went down.
That Pooh Shiesty had just been put on house arrest on October 31st, 2025 for a firearms charge. And a part of his conditions for this house arrest was that he would not possess any deadly weapon or knowingly be in the company of a person possessing the same. And his Instagram account later posted stories of him having a Rolex, a large amount of cash, and tagged Dallas, Texas as his location. Now, is the point to get away with the crime or not?
Investigators believe, listen to this, those images could be directly linked to the alleged robbery, adding another layer to the case they're building. From the prosecution side, it creates a narrative that feels organized and trackable. Movement data, online activity, and multiple people all seemingly connected. But hold up, the defense is coming back swinging hard. Pooh Shiesty's attorney is arguing that even with all these claims, some crucial evidence just isn't there. No verified contract has been shown, and none of the supposedly stolen items have been clearly tied back through solid physical proof in court. His legal team is painting this whole case as incomplete, suggesting that what's being pushed publicly might not actually stand up when it's fully challenged.
Waited 3 months to get warrants on whether or not there's guns, whether or not there's jewelry. How about their cell phones? How about the computers? That gives me great pause when I see a case that takes that long to get warrants, if you believe everything that was said on the evening that it occurs.
They even went as far as challenging the timeline holdup, pointing out it took months before any arrests were made, which raises real questions about how clear-cut this case actually is. So now everything sits in a weird spot. Prosecutors were confident in their detailed version of events, while the defense keeps insisting key proof is still missing. And listen, all that back and forth didn't matter when the moment finally came for him to stand in front of a federal judge. On April 7th, Pooh Shiesty walked into that courtroom with one goal: freedom. But you won't believe this, that's not how it went down. After going through the case, Federal Judge Renee Harris Tolliver made a call that instantly changed everything. Bond denied. No release, no second chances, at least for now. And the reasoning? Straight to the point and impossible to ignore. The judge highlighted his past legal issues, along with the fact he was already on home confinement when this allegedly happened. To the court, that raised serious doubts about whether he'd follow any conditions if he was released again. Then came the bigger concern: public safety. The court ruled that the nature of the charges combined with the prosecution's evidence suggested he could be a risk to the community. And let's be real, that alone is one of the strongest reasons to keep someone locked up, especially in a federal case. Prosecutors doubled down on that point, stressing how serious the accusations are and the level of coordination they believe was involved. From their angle, this wasn't some misunderstanding. It was something far more serious that couldn't be brushed off. Of course, the defense wasn't backing down. They pushed back, arguing the case isn't as airtight as it's being portrayed, pointing to missing physical evidence and calling the situation unusual, especially with that gap between the alleged incident and when arrests were finally made.
Certainly there have been media posts of individuals that we suspect were involved in that evening where they're denying that it occurred, or they're denying that they're giving statements to the government. I think that's unusual as well, because of what the government put forward today seems to negate those statements, but we'll have to see how this all shakes out.